Human Torch. I'm gonna go with the sus. Because I feel like you want to be different. Like, why the f playing him? He's not very fun. He's not very interesting.
You what?
Just like playing him because you like flying around. Like, I mean, I guess, but I think he's pretty bad.
It tore me apart, but I learned an important lesson. You can't count on anyone.
Oh shit, wrong video. Hello everyone, my name is Ron Butt. Here are my two accounts. And for the past 3 weeks or so, I've been so obsessed with playing Human Torch. With the skill ceiling I've yet to encounter in this game, I believe it has even yet to be reached on this character. Especially due to the low amount of people who are even giving Torch a chance, and the community is still so small. With the big stigma going around about the character and many people think he's weak, unviable, or even boring, it's going to be pretty difficult. But I'm here to show you that he's a lot more interesting than you think, and even stronger than you may have expected. There will be timestamps so you can jump around to different information and general tips, but I recommend you watch the whole thing through at least once so you can see what I have to offer. So, let's talk theory first. So when you first pick up Torch, his kit feels pretty unintuitive. He's an infinite flyer with a sort of shotgun ability, and his abilities feel a little unnatural and pretty difficult to weave together into something comprehensive. With enough time and experience, you understand that his abilities actually work very well together, and he's one of the better designed characters in my opinion. However, he does have a lot of limitations inside of his kit to compensate for that. What role does Torch fulfill? So Torch's role in a team setting really depends on the team comp you're playing with and the team comp you're playing against. He's a character that is very good at taking space with the threat of damage, and if a team doesn't respect that space, they will get punished by getting a bunch of damage, right? He's not like tanks in creating space, where tanks can create space through mitigation. Very important to understand, and very important to understand with his playstyle in mind. Being a flying character has upsides and downsides to it. Some upsides, right, are you can take very weird angles that a lot of people aren't really used to shooting at. You can take very strange cover that normally most DPSs aren't used to taking. A lot of characters can't deal with you, and that's very, very strong, and some people will just find that annoying and swap off. So the downsides of being a flying character is that it's very easy to make positioning mistakes, and if you get too tunnel vision on something, you can be punished for it very, very easily. However, you do have some ability options to compensate for that. Another downside for being an infinite flyer is that you will probably be asked to swap off if they have a Hela or Punisher. Like, they will just pre-fire your, they won't even give you a chance to play. If they see Hela Punisher and they press tab, see a Human Torch, they'll ask you to swap instantly. Another bad thing about being an infinite flyer is that you, other than your flaming meteor, you don't have any other escape options, and if you get cut out in a bad position, you will die very, very easily. Because he's a zoning DPS, it's very unintuitive to play him at first, which is why he feels so awkward and weird to most people where DPS's usual role is just to get picks and do damage. So the Human Torch's primary fire is the only primary fire in the game that works off of a resource, and because of that, it's very awkward to use at times. He only has 6 charges, but they regenerate while he's firing, so it's around 8. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So realistically, the resources is around 8, even though it says 6, because it regenerates while he's shooting. And most of the time, if you are holding down left click on somebody and you use all of your charges, you can just hit right click and you regenerate around 3 if you weave right clicks in between your primary fire. So if you do primary fire, a couple times and you're shooting at something, right click, it'll almost act as like a pseudo reload. Optimal range for Torch is around, if I can go over here, I would say around 20 meters is the sweet spot. You can still 3-shot a lot of squishies if you hit some really good shots, but this is still very hard to hit. Shots due to your travel speed and if they're kiting, which they most likely will be. 15 meters is like you the optimum damage. You're not too close, and you don't have to account for travel time too much. And you can still 3-shot people very consistently. Even those with small hitboxes like Invis Woman or Cloak. If you're up close, you should be aiming towards the right of the character a little bit. If you are very close, aim a little bit to the right. If you are above less than 5 meters, aiming a little bit to the right of the character, you'll hit your shots way more consistently. If you're above 5 meters, just aim normally. This is usually where your pellets begin to sort of miss if you aim too much to the right, but they'll still hit a little bit. So Blazing Blast is one of Torch's most important abilities. It has 3 charges with a 2-second cooldown, and so you get these very often, and so you should use these very often. As I said before, you can use these as a pseudo reload for your primary fire, and you can use this as sort of extra damage in between your left clicks. So if there's an enemy who's low, you can finish them off with the right click, as they're easier to hit, as they have a splash damage radius of 3 meters. When hitting the ground with one of your right clicks, you'll create a flame field. These last 6 seconds and are some of the most important damage that you'll have. You can use these as sort of a mini Pyro-Prison, so you can cut off different angles. For example, if this is a doorway, you can cut this off from any squishies and discourage anybody from passing through here. This also creates a threat, as you can use these spell fields as extra damage on your flaming meteor. Plasma Body doesn't really need any in-depth explanation. Main thing you need to know is that it makes you move 50% faster, and you can't use it while using other different abilities. One tip I have is, if you are on keyboard especially, I don't know what it is on controller, but when you're using Plasma Body, it's very difficult for you to descend, as both the keybinds, the default keybinds, are on your P key. So, as you can see, I'm using all my movement keys, and I'm holding left shift while using all my movement keys, and I'm twisting my hand, so that way left control is hitting the bottom half of my pinky. So I'm holding left shift, and then I'm twisting my hand to hit control. This is how I use Plasma Body while descending. So you can combine all those keys to create some pretty disgusting movement. So Flaming Meteor is one of your most important cooldowns in the game. It's your escape tool, and it's your way to secure kills. It's your way to give you really good damage in 1v1s, and it's also going to give you shields in Season 2. Flaming Meteor is going to be one of your more important cooldowns that you should not use very sparingly at all, and it is also your access to your one-shot. So to one-shot most squishies in the game, two flame fields and then a slam will do for the most part, right? It'll get them very low at the very least, so you can easily finish them off. To truly one-shot somebody in neutral, and if they're not getting healed, is to do 3 right clicks and then a slam. This will kill it will kill pretty much every squishy in the game, and because they're taking damage from the spell field already, it's gonna do a little bit of DOT as well as the slam itself. Now, to kill a support in their ulti, it's gonna take 5 spell fields and the slam on top of that to completely one-shot a squishy. So keep that in mind, that it's going to be 5. So if you are setting up a landmine inside of a support ulti, keep in mind that you need 5 to one-shot a support. Supernova is one of the more awkward ultis to use in the game. It's not intuitive like a lot of the ultimates in this game, where it's just a big circle on the ground that does a bunch of damage. So when popping your ulti, you're first going to do an initial 70 damage. This 70 damage seems pretty negligible, however, it can be very important when contesting card on overtime, or contesting point, or just using your one-shot combo from up close. So the main advice when using this ability, or when using your ulti, is to do your right-click ulti combo, and this will make it so you can put down a tornado even before you say your voice line. So when you right-click ulti, so right before the right-click hits the ground is the way to time it. So you right-click, wait for you can cast it mid-air, but I find that to be sort of inconsistent. I like to press Q right before my right click hits the ground. So right as it's about to hit the ground, press Q. It'll summon our tornado even before you say your voice line, resulting in some pretty surprising kills. You can do this to create a one-shot combo. So with the AoE that your ulti creates off of casting it and your right click Q combo, you can get some pretty crazy assassinations. One thing about Supernova is that you don't need to always kill with your ulti. Most of the time when you pop your ulti, support ulti will be responded with. However, if they don't have any, or they respect the ulti and try to kite it, most of the time splitting up the supports from the rest of the team is sometimes just as valuable as killing them. So once you understand that, you don't always have to greed super hard for the kill and have yourself killed as a result. Make sure to utilize the 30% damage reduction and to calm whenever you use your ulti, so that way your team can pocket you or use cooldowns on you, such as mag bubble or the thing damage reduction. One thing about Torch's ulti is that it can also kill through support ultis even in base without any damage boost. However, it becomes a lot easier with the damage boost. The only way supports can really die in their ultis, however, without any damage boost, is through sending in all 3 of your tornadoes and your team kind of shooting them a little bit. So if you do want to do this, I recommend calming to your team to shoot at the support that you want to kill. One thing I want to say is that when you use your ulti, you should calm to your team that you're going to ulti, not only so that you can get support, but so that way they can walk and create space with your ulti. Because as soon as the enemy team hears that voice line and you've already killed them in the past, supports are going to 99% of the time walk back, forcing your team to pretty much walk on their front line. Also, don't be scared to play your life in your ulti. You do have 30% damage reduction, but you can still very easily die from a good Hela or a good hit scan hero or someone who just really wants to focus you. So don't be afraid to use your Flame Meteor to go to safety, and also get used to playing cover, even in your ulti. So Pyro-Prison is one of the more unintuitive abilities that Torch has. Even though it may seem simple on the surface, by connecting your flame fields into a shape, it is very awkward to use in actual practice. So one thing to note is, if your flame fields are blocked by even the slightest LOS, your shape will not connect. So for example, if I do something like this, this shape does not close, making so that any character that's in between here will not take any damage. They will only take damage from the flame walls. So you have to keep in mind that when creating a Pyro-Prison, you have to make sure all the shapes have LOS with each other. So that way the shape can close and make it so anybody standing within this zone will take damage. Now, greeting for a shape is pretty bait, and most of the time will get you killed. So if you are trying to get a really greedy flame field all the way in the back line, so that way you can make a crazy shape like this, it's pretty greedy a lot of the time, and if they have a good Hela or Punisher, it will get you killed very often. When creating a flame field and you want to create them very consistently, you can look at the cooldown on the bottom right. It goes on cooldown as soon as you press the button, not as it finishes. And because your flame fields last 6 seconds, you can actually start setting up for your Pyro-Prison even before it goes off cooldown. And this will make it so any flame field that was put down before the 6 seconds are up will go into creating your Pyro-Prison. Now, the bad thing about greeting for Pyro-Prisons, and especially big squares or diamonds, is that it takes 4 of your right clicks. Your right clicks are really important for your overall DPS. So when using a lot of them to create a really big shape, you'll put your overall DPS on a really big cooldown. So a lot of the time, it's more useful to just make a really good triangle than to make a really good square, because even though a really good square will deny even more space or do more damage, you will have 1 extra right click to maybe even secure a kill that you wouldn't have if you didn't have that right click before. You can get very creative with this ability. You can get tons and tons of value by making different shapes. I recommend you go into custom game and experiment with each and every map to see what shapes you can create. There are some really crazy shapes that every time I see them, like, you know, would have never thought of. So experiment. I recommend you to experiment and go crazy with Pyro-Prison, especially when in the beginning when you're learning, because you know that's when you should experiment the most. You shouldn't be looking for damage when creating a Pyro-Prison. What you should be looking for instead is to make it so the enemy is discouraged for walking into the space that you create with your Pyro-Prison. So let's say, for example, this is a choke, right? What you don't want to do is create deep spell fields and then create a shape. This is pretty bad because most of the time they will just go around a corner and just hide from you and then wait out the shape. It's only 5 seconds, so it doesn't waste that much time. However, if you were to create a bit of a less deep shape and then create a spell field towards you, now I'm gonna just pretend this is closed. Now they are discouraged from even walking up at all, because if the shape starts right here, for example, they can easily just walk here, take a little bit of damage, and it's whatever, right? However, if you create a shape that's deeper towards you, towards your team, this makes it so your front line cannot get walked on without them taking a ton of damage. This is really good for denying pushes and denying just steamrolls in neutral. So that's using Pyro-Prison on convoy maps. On domination maps, Pyro-Prison is very useful in denying initial cap and helping your team create that. So you should pay attention to the clock and when the point actually turns on and is able to be captured. When there's around 6 seconds left before the point starts, you should start putting down your flame field, so that way once the point actually starts, you can activate your Pyro-Prison and create a shape on top of point, making it so that your team has a far bigger advantage and is more likely to cap first point, creating a big advantage early on. So now I'm going to talk about general gameplay and general advice on playing Human Torch. So one of the biggest tips I can give you, if you take anything away from this video, is to play your cover and or environment so much. Torch, Skybox Torch is really bad. You should never play him in the sky. He almost gets 0 value if he's playing up there. And you should just never be playing completely above your support, where your supports can hit you, and you should be playing in between your team, so that way supports can have LOS on you, and so that way people can't easily kill you out of the sky. You should be behind your tanks and play the space that they hold, and you should never push further up, otherwise you'll die quite often. Playing LOS of your supports is extremely important, and you should keep in mind the positioning of your supports, so that way they don't find it so annoying to heal you so often. Most of the time, if you just slam in front of your supports, I would say like 99.9% of the time they'll just heal you immediately if you Meteor slam right in front of them. You are a Watchtower. You should be IGL for your team, as you can see and hear everything as you're in the sky, and you should be able to call out off anglers and flankers and those who take height against your team, and they just kind of spam you. You should calm when you're contesting height or you're looking at 1v1 off an off angle, so that way your support can back you up in any fight that you take. So that way it's not a fair fight. You will be asked to swap. Even if you're carrying the fuck out of the game, have the most final hits, have, you know, the most damage, have the most KOs, whatever, you will be asked to swap if you are losing, no matter what. Just keep playing. If they keep asking and insisting to swap, just tell them to shut the fuck up and lock in and perform, like genuinely. And if you can't, just swap, because honestly sometimes taking the L is better than getting flamed and reported. You do a lot, this is really important, you do a lot of damage to tanks, but that does not mean you always should. Because you build you do so much damage to tanks, it's super easy for the enemy team to build support ult charge off of your basic attacks and your primary fire. So if you're constantly hitting tanks and hitting them for 200 damage per headshot, your team will fucking hate you because you are independently feeding the support ultis constantly. It's very, very bad to just keep spamming tanks. You should almost never do this. It's very good to pick off tanks if they're isolated or overextended and they're not paying attention to their team. But if you're just shooting tanks the whole time and farming damage, and you know you're wondering, oh, why am I losing? I have the most damage. It's because you're feeding support ults, bro. Like, you're almost throwing the game by doing that. So honestly, it just depends. But for the most part, just don't spam tanks, especially neutral. It's kind of troll. Look for some good slams on supports for some free kills. If tanks overextend, you can just fly over them and look for a pick on supports, especially if their supports are not paying attention and focusing on keeping their tanks up. You're one of the only DPSs in the game that can kill a support in their ulti if your team just shoots them a little bit. And if you should calm your team to focus a support ulti if you see the opportunity to kill a support in their ulti. If you're rocket boosted, you can kill a support easily in their ulti. You completely melt their supports. But this might change due to the new rocket changes in Season 2, where it's not only going to be a 25% boost instead of a 40% boost like it was before. So, we'll see. Maybe it'll change, maybe it won't. We'll find out. Here's some general heroes to look out for. So, Hela is pretty self-explanatory. She's hit scan, has one of the best primary fires in the entire game. So you could 2-tap you out of the sky. It's very difficult to go against Hela. However, not impossible. You can force Torch into Hela, and if you're good enough, you'll differ. And you can melt her ulti, so that's another plus. Namor is complete and utter cancer. This character is extremely hard to play against with any flying hero, as it's auto aim. So no matter how much environment or cover you play, you'll always take damage from a Namor. It's really annoying and almost has zero counterplay. Black Widow is sort of like a Hela in terms of being hit scan, and you can easily die to a good one. However, once again, if you just play cover smart and she can't one tap without Mantis boost, you will be completely fine. However, once you climb higher and higher in the elos, you will notice the Widow Mantis combos, and then you can easily just get one shot in the sky. If you keep getting one tapped over and over and over again, you might just have to swap, and you can't force the Torch into Widow all the time. Hawkeye is a very hit or miss hero when it comes to playing against. However, if you go against a really good Hawkeye, the game is unplayable. I'm going to be honest. It really is. You just keep getting one tapped out of the sky. Even some semi-charged arrows to the body will do so much damage to you and create so much pressure for the Hawkeye. Adam Warlock is complete cancer, and you may think because of his primary fire and he's hit scan, you know, you're easily taken out of the sky. That's actually just not the case. The case is the big thing is that Adam Warlock he's really only viable in a 3 support setting. So because of that, it forces you to play into 3 supports, and nothing dies in a triple support comp. If you play Torch into a triple support comp, you're gonna have a pretty bad time. It's very annoying. Nothing dies, and it's very difficult to secure picks because everyone's gonna be full HP pretty much all the time. If you want to force Torch into a triple support comp, just be wary that it's gonna be really difficult to play. Now to the annoying tier. So we've gone throughout all the cancer characters. Now here are going to be some annoying characters that don't necessarily counter you, but are extremely annoying to go against. So Hulk, he can knock you out of the sky, right? But as long as you're aware of his position and you're not playing too far up, most of the time he won't be able to launch a good jump on you because he's the Hulk, and his jump height is so limited and puts him in a bad position most of the time if he greets for it. The thing Slam, his little rock thing on the floor that he leaves after his dash, negates your plasma body and negates you from flying pretty much altogether. He's pretty annoying to go against, but other than that, not that bad. But you do melt him with your primary fire. Now, Strange and Mag are annoying to go against because they block your right clicks and they prevent flame fields from forming if they block your right clicks. Spider-Man is really, really annoying if you're playing a flying character. However, if you just play cover and play corners and play very, very close to cover, the Spider-Man is usually going to have a bad time. So it's all about playing around cover, and if you do find yourself in the middle of the open with a cluster on you, just dive in front of your supports and most of the time you'll be just fine. Star-Lord is just kind of annoying. He's not a hard counter, but his pistol barrage does make him a very big nuisance in the sky, and he just gets free damage on you. Wanda is very difficult to go against as she'll always do consistent damage on you, and unless you hit all of your shots and all of your abilities, you will pretty much always guarantee die. It's just a matter of time of you dying rather than you necessarily outplaying the character, because you can't out-movement her abilities. You just can't. They're too easy to hit. And so flanking Wanda or an off-angling Wanda will absolutely fuck you and your team up, and she could just fly above your support's head, so they won't know that Wanda's even behind them. Iron Fist is a bit like Spider-Man, however, he's a bit worse because you could just slam into your team and be completely fine. The only reason why I find him relatively annoying is that sometimes they'll just pick Iron Fist and completely focus you the entire time, and it's just a pain in the dick to deal with. Invis Woman is super annoying, mainly because if you overextend a little bit for a kill, let's say, or misposition at least a little bit, usually you can turn around and Meteor back. However, if you get pulled, you can sometimes be pulled into very undashable situations and you just die. Also, her little orb will completely knock you out of the sky. Also very annoying. Everyone else in Meh is not really worth noting, and you completely counter Jeff's ulti by, once his animation starts where you see the circle on the ground, you just put three right clicks in the middle and then slam and you instantaneously kill him pretty much. So just to go over some quick synergies before we end it off. Groot has one of the best combo ultis in the game with any character, really, but with Human Torch, this works especially as you can kill through support ultis. So with Groot ulti, and the whole team can pretty much die with getting hit by all three of your tornadoes. Luna is really, really good because she just throws your snowflake on you and then you just get healed throughout 1v1s and taking off angles and playing weird cover. So Luna Snowflake allows you to play a lot more freely. Mag Bubble is really good. It helps you overextend and take really, really aggressive fights on high, off angles, and just in front of your tanks in general. And also while you ulti. Invisible Woman has good synergy, mainly due to the team up, pretty much only to do with the team up, but also the shield helps you a lot, especially if you're trying to take angles, 1v1s off angles and on height. Rocket Raccoon has pretty good synergy with you, as with the 25% damage boost, you may be able to kill through support ultis. I'm not sure, I haven't tested it in Season 2, but I'm sure you will be able to, considering you could do it in base. So one thing I forgot to mention is the Storm team up with your double ultis. So the only thing it realistically does is increase the duration on Storm's ulti. It does not increase the damage, and it does not kill through support ultis by itself. You would need to put your tornadoes on top of Storm's tornadoes in order to burn through support ultis. The only thing the team up really does is force out 2 support ultis in a row, and that's really the only thing that it's really good at. But outside of that, it's kind of bait, and for the most part you should use your ultis staggered, so that way you're not burning 2 ults for 1 defense ulti. Anyway, this has been my Torch guide. If you take anything away from this, I hope it just encourages you to keep on playing the character. It's very easy to get discouraged when learning, as this character has a lot of flaws and a lot of drawbacks. However, with the new changes to Season 2, he's going to be a lot easier to play, and I hope a lot more people pick him up, so that way we can get even better as a community. Anyway, this has been Rambot. Thank you for watching. be sure to like and subscribe.